Otherwise, I will first always explain stuff, then I will show all the things I know, and then I will do chat segments basically. So I guess let's just get right into it. I am first gonna start with some general information here in the game and the run that we need to know. And for that, let me just get into a different file actually. So, very important, first of all, let's start this. First thing that I have to tell you guys is I will not explain in this tutorial like the basic movements. I think if you want to go from actually never played the game to blindfolded 16 star, you should at least play, like, learn the normal speedrun visual stuff first. This will help you tremendously in the long run. You need to definitely know all the basic movement options Mario has, so you need to know how to like triple jump, how to like, I don't know, punch and ground pound, backflip, everything. You need to be very familiar with your moveset. I'm not speaking about very blindfolded specific things like pause buffering and stuff, but be like, know like how you dive, like that if you have like, if you're for example, what beginners don't know is that if you jump and kick, it's the same button press as the jump dive. It just depends like on your speed, for example. And these kind of things you learn in the visual speedrun if you just do it. So for the basic movement, please look up a visual, I don't know, 16 star guide, 17 star guide, and just learn that one first, because it's needed and necessary and required. Then we will come first to a few, like a tiny few terminologies. One of them I already talked about, which is pause buffering. So let me explain what you see here. I play on a practice ROM, and on the down left you can see my input display of the analog stick. Very important, this input display. It will give you big hints if you rewatch this later on and have trouble understanding like what is happening during the star. Look at the input display on the down left, either in-game or on the input display that I have provided there. If it is on, I really hope it is on. Yep, it should be. And you can check this input display for like a more direct feedback. Then what I have to say otherwise first too is I play on a Wii Virtual Console, and many of those threads are specifically made for a GameCube controller, which means that if you play on emulator with a random controller like an Xbox or PlayStation controller, many of these threads will simply not work. It is very unfortunate, but Blindfolded is very heavily bound to what hardware and what controllers you use. Many of these threads will be very similar though, so don't worry. If you have, for example, a N64 controller or you play on original hardware, on an original N64, the N64 controller also has the same 8 notches that the GameCube controller has. So many of the threads will kind of still work the same, just you might have to adjust a few values and a few like steps. So always have that in the back of your mind if you want to learn this. Also, if you have an Xbox 360 controller also, I highly recommend you guys get a notched controller. No matter if it's your favorite controller that you extremely love, the PS4 controller or whatever, get a GameCube controller adapter or a Hori GameCube controller on USB if you're on emulator or something. It is extremely important that you have notches. Otherwise, 90% of my threads will simply not work and you will have a much harder time finishing it. It is possible to do it without notches, but it will be way more painful. Then, this is for the hardware differences. Version differences and hardware differences, if you play on Wii or N64, it doesn't really matter. On N64 you have to only consider lag, So if you are later on in DDD, then you have to consider that on N64 you might need to add lag reduction inputs that I do not have to do because I'm on Wii. Otherwise, JP, I mean Japanese version versus English version, very important to note that in this route specifically that I will show you, there is a big version difference between those two. So I'll go to that later, but in general, both versions are basically the same for 16 star, so don't worry if you only have one copy, it's possible with both of them. What else do we have? I will definitely try to explain the best beginner route that we have currently, but I will also add some like variants. So if you, for example, cannot do 1 star for the life of you, I don't know why, because it's just too difficult, I will have more than 15 stars ready here for this tutorial that I will also show. And you can basically choose and switch out a specific star with another one if you want. I will show like probably 1 extra star or so, and the rest of the stars are pretty fixed, unfortunately, in terms of difficulty. Everything else that you would like to do is even more difficult. What otherwise is also to say that I will not do like the very fastest strats that I, for example, do. I will specifically focus on like beginner-friendly strats. So I will not go ahead and show you how to do Lucky to Skip Blindfolded right now, because it is absolutely pointless and a waste of time. And many of the strats that I show you can be taken as not 100%, this is the way to do it. This is like a guideline basically that you can follow. But if you find yourself a better strat or a better setup that you just feel more comfortable with, or like have a better time to remember, all of these things you have to consider and make like your own kind of route from it. Because in Blindfolded it's very different, that in terms of if you don't feel comfortable with the strat and you struggle really much, it is much better to do a slower setup and get the star more consistently, especially in the beginning. Don't worry about speed. Speed will come with time, and also memorization will come with time. So just focus on trying to get consistent in the beginning. And one more thing that I want to say is I am on the practice ROM, which includes save states, so I can just like warp around from different points, for example. And this is my #1 advice right here in the very beginning. Practice Blindfolded with either emulator or a practice ROM. Don't do it with the vanilla SM64 thing, cartridge or something. It is possible, but you will have to repeat the same setup for like 50 times or so in order to like properly memorize it, properly figure out all the details. And if you want to really enter the castle all this time, enter the painting, get the star, re-enter the painting, you will lose so much valuable time in your life that it's just super not worth it, dude. So, just a personal advice from me, save yourself some time, either do it on emulator, even if you have the hardware. Emulator has free save states if you cannot reach like the practice ROM or have a EverDrive or whatever. Or just, yeah, figure out a way how to do it yourself. But this is my advice. Save states are the #1 help in life, I tell you. So, that was all I wanted to say for the very beginning. With that, we can, I guess, start with the first not star, but I will still include the first section, which is how to enter the castle and the first painting.